Okay, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic slash Non-Classic. This is episode number 1425. Yep, got this particular number. And for 1319. I got two James Robinson trades. Yep. The first one here is a finale. Yep, a finale. The other one is the second one for this one. Alright, first up it is the Fantastic Four, Volume 4. The end is forever. Love the little thing here. Yep. This book is amazing. This book collects issues 640 to the 645 of the Fantastic Four series. Yeah, at this point, this is the first time since 2012, at the time these issues came out, first time in 3 years, we finally see the nostalgia number, the legacy numbering. And material from Marvel's 75th Anniversary Celebration number 1. Of course, written by James Robinson, artwork by Leonard Kirk. Yeah, this is the big epic conclusion to James Robinson's very brief run he had for this book, though it was slightly longer than Matt Fraction's run. This book basically turns awesome, and it's basically building up from the last arc. This one, he breaks out of his restraints. Reed Richards, it's like, oh yeah, the Force symbol. It's not something on my shirt. It's actually It's actually a device, which basically frees him from his restraints. Meanwhile, though, Namor and the Invaders show up to team up with the Fantastic Four and the real Avengers to take on the Heroes Reborn Avengers. Like, we have some really awesome fights here. We have the current Captain America at this point, Sam Wilson, take on Heroes Reborn, Captain America, very awesome fight. We also have the Hulk, who at this point is Doc Green. That's something that Gary Duggan did. And I love the fact we have a nod to when the Rachel's family, Fantastic Four, go back to the building. The place is damaged, and they're wondering what the heck the Hulk was doing there. And according to Doc Green, that's what he calls himself at this point, he says the reason why does need a place to stay. Well, if you read the Hulk book, the reason why is because Red Hulk basically transported to his base operation, was a place called the Honeycomb, and he had to destroy the place. And now he moved to the back building, which he was using up until Secret Wars. The only time basically got announced, aside from this very book, was actually pages of Nova. Yep, in the last story arc, just prior to Secret Wars. Yep. So, yep, and then the Quiet Man unleashes the Heroes Reborn Avengers. Aside from having Doc Green take out his Heroes Reborn counterpart, which that was very brief, don't say very much of it. In the case of Sam Wilson, Captain America versus Heroes Reborn, Steve Rogers, that was amazing. But I think it's one fight no one ever expected ever to happen. Heroes Reborn Scarlet Witch taking on 616 Scarlet Witch. Or things like, hey witch. She's like, you. Yeah, me. The real Scarlet Witch. I don't know why you're so surprised. I'm here to stop you. My reputation's bad enough from my own mistakes. Yeah, that's because of House of M. And just by sheer coincidence, right after this run wrapped up, James Robinson would write Scarlet Witch and Squadron Supreme. But disappointing thing is about this fight, lasts maybe 2 pages. And Spider-Man compliments her. It's like, good going, Wanda. And she's like, we're not done yet, Spider-Man. But I at least brought some friends with this mess. To help with this mess. The Salem 7. Yeah, I haven't seen these guys in years. Yep. But here's the thing. The reason why they're... Well, at the same time, it was really at the... I think it was just at the end of part 2 of this 4-parter that revealed that the Quiet Man has handed off the control of Earth to the Psycho Man. Oh yes, the Psycho Man. The same man who basically turned Sue Richards into Malice. And this turns into a big, humongous, epic brawl. I mean, yeah, people don't like hero versus hero. But these are not the regular hero. These are the Heroes Reborn characters. Now, I don't know what the reputation of basically these characters are. I know that their series is not that terrible. I'm sure that some people don't really give a damn about the Heroes Reborn Avengers. But surprisingly, one thing I thought was quite weird though, like I'll get to more of that in a minute. Basically, the one thing I thought was really weird. So, in the end, the Quiet Man gets away. Yep, he gets away in all the chaos. Fantastic Four win. They got their home back. That takes a while. And we also have a side story where Human Torch runs into his first girlfriend, Doris, where she has gotten divorced from her husband, and he's like, okay, you want to go? I'll cook you some dinner. I don't have any money. Can I go to your place? The backspilling's a mess. I thought that was quite nice. Human Torch, during the course of these 4 parts, gets his powers back. Yep, gets his powers back. And, well, that's the end of the main story. Yep. The side stories they included in here are Rekindled, that's done by Carl Kitzler, which I believe this guy did work on Fantastic Four briefly. Yeah, working on by Joe Bennett. You have Louise Simonson. I believe she has worked on Fantastic Four back in the 80s with Dave Marquez in the artwork. She's the Rio. That's basically the story of Sue basically just taking all in the fact that she's back in her home. The Thing in The Trash Man. It's done by Tom DeFalco. He is a legendary writer, if you don't know who this guy is. This guy at one point was the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics back in the early 90s, before they went into near bankruptcy, or by Tom Grimmett. Excuse me. At the time that, in the early 90s, when he was editor-in-chief, he was actually writing Fantastic Four. He wrote this book along with Thor, and he also had a hand in writing Amazing Spider-Man. For Thor, he had one of the more longer runs for Thor. I think he was on Thor almost as long as Walt Simonson was. Time and Tide is done by Jeff Parker. Rekindle is the Human Torch one. Things Trash Man, that's simply him fighting some villain, of course, some trash. The Real's Real is, of course, well, Sue and her son. Yep. This story here, which is Time and Tide, interesting artwork. I don't mind it at all. I think this is the Jeff Parker one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is Jeff Parker with Pascal Campan. Yeah, this is gorgeous artwork. I gotta hand it. It's not exactly something you would see in a regular superhero book, but it works. I don't mind this artwork. It looks great. It looks so gorgeous. Yep. I gotta give high compliments to the artwork. It's really good. The anniversary, just basically just a short story from that. Mostly focused on, well, it's most of them James Robinson wrote, that stuff that led up to the formation of Fantastic Four, and stuff that basically we see nowadays. Like, we have a woman named Camilla. I don't know if this is Camilla Khan, but there's that. One thing that was really weird about this, okay, you throw in the Heroes Reborn Avengers. Okay, that's cool. What about the Heroes Reborn Fantastic Four? That would have been even more, that would be just as interesting. This storyline, this arc is great. And I give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Final thoughts on this run. Yes, it is shocking, though, that of all the books James Robinson wrote, that this book, Fantastic Four, is his longest book he worked on. Everything else lasted, like, with the exception of Nick Fury and Cable, lasted 5 issues. Everything else was 15 issues. 15! I'm like, really? Yes, really. It's not a terrible run. No, it's actually just really good. Yep. Now, my final thoughts on this particular run is that, well, the way that James Robinson was writing this, it's almost like basically higher ups were telling him doing this style of storytelling, though it got better as time went on. Where it's like, from a reader's perspective, it's like Marvel's actively trying to punish the Fantastic Four at this point in time. The reason being is because they're blood feud with Fox over the rights of the Fantastic Four. And there was a couple reasons why this book ended in 2015. The official reason I've heard was because of low sales. According to Jonathan Hickman, he said the reason the book ended was because the Fantastic Four movie that happened in 2015. That's according to Jonathan Hickman. Though he had not written the book since like 2012. That was the last time he wrote the book. Though, now in the case of the first one, that was opinion on John Campea. I don't know. That's not an official source when it comes to basically. He thinks that he thought at the time that was the reason why the comic ended. But I believe more of Jonathan Hickman because the actor is more close to the situation than John Campea is. So, do I believe the end because of this movie? Yes. And here's the strange thing about this. Like, right after Secret Wars, there was no Fantastic Four comic. It was the only comic that never came back. The actual reasons because, well, they say the reason why because that Fox wouldn't use like any stories that they were publishing at this point in time where they're using the movies because of what happened with the movie that came out that very year. I haven't seen it, but according to my brother surprisingly liked it. I, of course, still have not seen it yet. Well, I haven't said that fully watched the whole thing. I've seen clips of the movie. It looks really, really bad. And it is so obvious that Fox interfered with this movie. The studio heads. It's basically one of the two most notorious studio interference. The instances of studio interference in the last, 40 years. I would say the only movie that they were associated with that they did interfere with was Alien 3. I heard about that. I still haven't had a chance to rewatch the movie again. It's been a while since I've watched it. Though the director of the movie basically has gone on basically have a good career after the movie, but that movie nearly ruined his career before it started. Josh Trank, it basically killed his career. But what happened to the Fantastic Four after Secret Wars? Well, Reed and Sue weren't seeing comics for 2 years. Because after Secret Wars, they decided to help rebuild the multiverse. That's what happened to the Richards family. The Thing, of course, during his period of time, joined the Guardians of the Galaxy for about 2 years. And then he got moved over to the infamous Iron Man series as a supporting character. And I've talked to Alex Moline about the book. Even he agreed about the book, where it's a Fantastic Four book without the Fantastic Four. And he agreed with that opinion. He actually agreed with that. As the Human Torch, he popped up in 2 books after this particular book wrapped up. He popped up in Uncanny Humans as a regular character. He appeared in the book up until the book's end. He also appeared in Uncanny Avengers, where he appeared in that book also from the start to the very end of the book. Now, in the case of Uncanny Humans, that actually ended in 2017. And during the book, he actually was dating Medusa at that point in time. Not Doris, he went with Medusa. Though at least Charles actually bothered to explain, when the relationship started. Unlike other questions people have asked about basically what happened during the 8-month time skip, there was actually one question that Charles actually bothered to answer. The other one, of course, was how one of the big ones was how did Daredevil's identity become secret again. Yeah, that one he also did too. But as for stuff like, who's the father of Jessica Drew's baby? How did Tony Stark go back being good? No one bothered to answer those 2 questions. It's one of those questions that still to this very day, no one bothered to ask. Well, no one bothered to answer. Readers have been asking Marvel Comics for years of how the heck Tony Stark and First got first. At least the case of Sabretooth, at least there was explanation for him, and of course, Havoc. But Iron Man? Nope. Don't bother to explain how the heck that got fixed, or what happened with the lineup that Rick Remender had at the end of Secret Wars and with the new lineup Gary Duggan assembled. Yep. But eventually, thanks to Marvel Legacy, we brought back Reed and Sue Richards. Well, we teased them per se. Then come back fully into 1 year later with Dan Slott taking over as Fantastic Four, and the book itself has been really good. I love Dan Slott's run for Fantastic Four. I think it's really good. It started at the same time as his run for Iron Man. Though, the way you can tell the way he writes, it seems like he's a big fan of Fantastic Four. And also, he did something that, okay, in the Fantastic Four book, when he was writing it, basically, he actually had it where at the start, you had Alicia Masters and the Thing getting engaged, and issue 5, they announced the wedding of these two, and it actually happened! Compared to 2 other weddings that were announced that period of time, which were Batman and Catwoman, which was supposed to have Batman 50. The other one, of course, was Colossus and Kitty Pryde. These 2 were teased, and didn't happen. Why? Because the bride's got cold feet. In the case of Tom King, when he wrote Batman 50, he got death threats over this. Guggenheim, who wrote X-Men 30, which I only think the reason why that happened because of Batman 50 happening with the wedding of Batman Catwoman. And there wasn't much build-up for this one as a case of Batman Catwoman. The thing was with Guggenheim, I think he took a lot of flack what happened in X-Men Gold 30 when they were supposed to have that wedding. They did have a wedding though, but not the wedding advertised. Nope, they had the wedding of Gambit and Rogue, which, okay, that was something that I think a lot of people were expecting to happen some time ago, but it's perfectly fine. But at least in the case of Thing and Alicia Masters, it actually happened. Yeah, it was even mentioned in the solicit that we're not going to basically avoid this. This is going to happen. We're going to have this wedding. And it happened. And the Thing is now a married man. Something that they initially teased several years prior to this, when he was engaged with a teacher, and he called the wedding last minute. Yep. Oh yeah, and also when Human Torch, he told Human Torch he would get engaged, and he wanted Human Torch to be best man. He's like, no, the person who should be your best man who should be Reed Richards. And then that brought about the return of Fantastic Four, fully. As for if in fact that they got back their building, nope. They didn't. They didn't move back to the building. That actually, well, at the end of this book they did, but they later handed off the keys to the building because they got the keys back anyways to Fantastic, the new team that operated out of the building, which operated briefly, and then they handed the keys back to Reed Richards. As in the case of the team itself, they operated out of Thing's apartment building. That's what they operated out of. Well, it wasn't the first time they done this, but there's that. But in the case of Fantastic Four by James Harper, it's a good run. I enjoyed it. It basically had... The only thing I thought was, aside from the whole thing of not having Heroes Reborn Fantastic Four there, the one thing that I think a lot of people probably would basically have complaints about is that why switch the red costumes? Yeah, that was something in book that they never had to explain. It's like, oh, they just come back from space and wear these red costumes for some reason. Yeah, they switched up from wearing the white costumes they were wearing since 2011 and switched up with these. Excuse me. In book, no explanation for this at all. The one thing I did appreciate, though, is they went back to blue before the end of the run. And they used the logo from the reboot movie. No problem with the logo. The logo was good. I like the logo. It just, the movie itself didn't look very good to me. Alright, moving on to James Robinson book. We have Squadron Supreme, Volume 2, Civil War 2. For a tie-in to Civil War 2, it does nothing. It's just a good marketing ploy. I read this book, and was there like some of you Ulysses that was some kind of like predict the future type of thing? Not really, no. It's almost like this. It's kind of like the way it was with Guardians of the Galaxy Original Sin, which happened just a couple years prior to this. That they had the tie-in, and the tie-in had nothing to do with Civil War 2. It's just basically there for marketing value. Now in this one, you actually have, it's mostly focused on Dr. Spectrum, the woman who popped up in Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers run, where they already killed off Namor, and she had a confrontation with Toro, the sidekick of the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond. And she also meets up with Black Bolt, one of the people responsible for destroying her home world. Now, this is something that a lot of people pointed out, though. Why is it only this book bothers to remember the incursions, and no other book bothered did do that? Nope, no other book did. And we also have it to where we have the Supreme Power Kyle Raymond apparently fighting 616 Kyle Raymond. They fight and 616 Kyle Raymond loses and apparently dies. Though it turns out this is not the actual Kyle Raymond, this is a Skrull. I'm like, okay. Like, when the heck did he get replaced by a Skrull? This just comes completely out of nowhere. In the case of this, like, oh, let's reveal that the Kyle Raymond 616 is in fact a freaking Skrull. Yep. And they, of course, are still using the Orca Corporation as their base. It almost seems as though with this one, it just basically just reveals some stuff here and there. It just barely progressed in the story. This book only collects issues 6 to 9 of Squadron Supreme Volume 4. Yes, only about 5 issues. It's really short. Yep. Now, the book itself, started off wise, it's drawn by Leonard Kirk, who was the primary artist for issue 628 with Frank Martin. Actually, yeah, Leonard Kirk and Paco Valenti, who's the artist for issue 628. 9 is done by Achio. The cover art here is done by they don't say, surprisingly. It's not listed here. Like, let's see, who does the cover art here? Yeah, they don't really say exactly who does the cover art here, surprisingly. Yeah, I'm not really sure why. Though there's a backup story issue 9 done by Leonardo Romano. Oh yeah, and also we have Dr. Spectrum meeting Medusa. That was a really interesting scene. And it's possible she's an Inhuman. And apparently the way they describe the Kree in her world, they're kind of like wizards, do with magic, whatever, which is interesting to say the least. The backup story is mostly put another Power Princess, basically, where it kind of details her backstory and her eventually joining up with, well, her planning on joining up with the Squadron Supreme. For the second arc of this particular run, it's pretty good. It's not as great as the opening story arc of this run. I'm going to give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. It felt a bit of a step down from the opening story arc. That's what I kind of felt as about that, but I love the stuff with Dr. Spectrum in here. I thought that was a really good progression here. The only character who didn't feel like he did much of anything in this whole story was Hyperion. Yeah, he did virtually nothing. The only character aside from Dr. Spectrum who did anything in these 5 issues was Nighthawk. Yep, Nighthawk. Which I love the fact they actually had him put on his Supreme Power outfit. They even had one of the covers where they had Supreme Powered Nighthawk. And look, here's the reveal that the Kyle Raymond he fought was a Skrull. When the heck it was replaced? No idea. Yeah, the villain basically got stabbed. Let me show off the awesome cover, which had this awesome. Look at this. Here it is. Squadron Supreme. Nighthawk versus 616 Nighthawk. Oh, this is actually a fake one. Yeah. And of course, they have the whole set with Power Princess. It's almost like everybody else in this book, like in the case of like Blur, she didn't do much of anything at all. It's like a lot of the squadron didn't do much of anything. And for a tie-in to Civil War II, it does nothing to advance the story. It's just there just for marketing purposes. I mean, does it really reveal anything? Well, aside from the fact of the possibility Dr. Spectrum is possibly inhuman, not much. Not much at all. As the whole thing of preventing the future thing, that's completely something else altogether. Also, the way Tor was written, almost like the way I was reading it, almost like he didn't give a damn about the fact that they killed off Namor. He wasn't, like, upset by it because he probably didn't like Namor very much. Yep. But yeah, that's it for this particular review. Stay tuned later on today. I have another comic corner, but I'm going to wait to do that later because I'm going to be leaving soon. I'm also going to do my review for Case Close and Our Last Crusade of the Rise of a New World. I'll probably do that when I get home. And then I might do my second comic corner and then do case goals, and that'll be pretty much it. Okay, next video. Bye.